Hey, Mario, 2502. Welcome. And greetings from the USA. Back to you. All right. Think I'm up and running. Greetings. It is your favorite warlock here. And today I want to kind of bring to you a thought form of annotation. Okay. What does it mean to be or to basically go underneath what is called annotation into any given tradition? Well, let's take a look at it for an example of today's modern day occult philosophies. Okay. A lot of the times when you go to get into, say, for example, the African Caribbean tradition, you'll come across heavy resistance. Okay. This is, how should I say, the reason for this is because of the cultural background. Okay. If you're trying to get into Haitian Voodoo or say Brujeria, Santeria, or Palo Mayambi, they will not bring you into their fold quickly. You would have to work your backside off to get into these traditions. That means you have to earn every step times 10. It's not like you're, Haitian and applying to become a mambo or a hungan, okay? Where you'd get right in because it's that cultural background. Okay, so if you're say for example white or you're Latino, you're not going to get into voodoo that easy. You know, it would be like Haitian or a white or even Native American, for an example, trying to become a Santero. You're just not going to get in there that easily. You're gonna have to put forth a lot of money and become initiated into these what is called the houses. Okay, each house is different. They have different rules, different philosophies, different style practices. Whereas, say for an example, Satanism is a lot different. Satanism is one of those traditions that anybody can pick up a book, call themselves a Satanist, initiate yourself because there's countless books out there from Anton Zandalavey, Alistair Knott, I believe a former traditional Satanist by the name of, what was his name? He wrote Satan's Bible. Um, he basically he turned into a Christian. I want to say it was like last year or the year before. So he actually had one where you take a ritual bath and well, let's just say some personal things um, would be involved in this. And so, I mean, anybody could pick up a book and initiate themselves. But if you take a look at the traditions and you get into the historical aspects of it, it is not another person. It is not a Babalawi or a Santero that brings you, a godfather that brings you into the fold. It is actually the Orisha or the Loa, the demons. They're the ones that tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I'm choosing you and activating you and bringing you into the fold." Now, it does help to be initiated into the systems because it creates a much more potent source of power. But not just that, but also the knowledge of the inner workings and the inner circles of these modern day practitioners. However, you can start out as a Bokor. Now, in some cultures, you really don't want to go around saying, "Hey, I'm a Bokor or Caplata." You know what I'm saying? That Caplata being a female practitioner of voodoo. Okay, it's the female version of the bokor. The bokor, and or go into cultural crossovers and go into Latino and Latin America and say, hey, I'm Aaron Barrows. You're gonna go, oh my God, I want nothing to do with you. It's like going into a Wiccan or pagan culture and going, hey, I'm a warlock. Because to them you're an oath breaker and a betrayer. You know, but the term Bokor is somebody who has not been initiated into Haitian Voodoo, okay, or even any form of voodoo traditions, be it uh, be it Ghana, Malawi, Ethiopian, or let's just call it the way it is, African based and or Caribbean based, or say for example, American based. Voodoo is worldwide, okay? And a lot of times these practitioners, they don't stop to think, hmm, I wonder why all these sorry, I got a pimple inside my nose and it's bugging the hell out of me. But let's see. There's not a lot of practitioners out there that will stop and think about this for just a moment, because there are less and less Haitians getting involved in voodoo these days. They don't stop to think, why is there more cultural crossovers? Okay. Why is voodoo going into all these countries, such as Russia, Europe, Americas, you know? And you got voodoo going into Jamaica, South America, Central America, North America, Canada, Russia. Okay. And it's interesting because of the fact that. I have to get my toys. All right, go ahead, buddy. Go get them. Don't be afraid of the Bella. Sorry, that's my boy, my 5-year-old. Um, anyways, so they don't realize that the Orisha are reaching out. The Loa are reaching out to other cultures. People need to start realizing that in the old traditions, in the old ways, it is the spirits that tap you, that activate you, not other practitioners. Okay? Anybody could get into a tradition. For an example, in Haitian Voodoo, you can pick up a number of different books. In fact, I recommend it anyways, because you learn different things from different practitioners. But here it is. Because modern society says that you must be initiated by a practicing Hungan or Mambo. If you're in the Dominican Republic, it's Papa or Mama. Okay. And if you don't, then you are considered a Bokor, a practitioner of self made practices. Okay. Therefore, you're considered less valuable, less powerful. But yet, if you actually take the time to look at a Bokor or a Caparata, these practitioners are more potent in their magical abilities and their practices than any Mambo or Hungan, Babalawi even. Why is that? It's because they spend so much time practicing, studying, researching the materials. They don't sit there and go, how can I get into this tradition and further my knowledge here? You see, it is your connection to the spirits, to the Loa, to your ancestors. The African-based traditions is ancestral based. Okay, that means you are working with your own ancestors under the guidance and tutelage of the Loa, be it the Rada, the Petro, or the Gadi. family of Loa. That's first, second, and third class Loas right there. Now, a lot of people will tell you stay away from the Petro, okay, because they are violent and dangerous, and they will fuck up your world. Well, guess what? This is out of ignorance and fear. If you take a look at the Petro, you take a look at the Rada family of Loa, you have the same ranking systems. You have the same abilities. Keflu, for an example, is a crossroads, just like Papa Legba, a Rada family, Loa, who's known as the keeper of the crossroads. These two spirits are the ones that you want to go to any other Loa. A Loa can reach out to you and say, hey, I want to work with you. I want you to be in this tradition. If you go into the Caribbean traditions, the Orisha are the exact same way. You have 3 types of spirits. Okay. Your ancestors being one of them. You have what is known as the Loa of the dead, or destruction, storms, chaos, stuff like that. And then you got those of healing and of beneficial properties. Okay. Either way you look at it, these spirits work with you, not other practitioners. Okay. When you get into a house, that's a whole nother ballgame. Okay. When you get into a peristyle or a house, be it Vudan, or which is peristyle, or that of, say, for an example, a house which is Pelo Mayambi, Santeria, uh, Lukami, you know, Gimbiza aspects, stuff like that. Guess what? These are a whole different ballgame, because then you have to go to a specific altar that is set up for that particular spirit. You have different rules by the practitioner that runs that particular peristyle or house. Okay. Like I said at the beginning, every house is different. They have different rules, different setups, different practices. You have to understand these things to get into them. This is why I recommend that you do your research. Go into Google, type in any number of practice that you can think of, cross reference them. Because if you think about it, all of these Latin based cultures, what they practice, from Brujeria to Santeria to Lukumi, Kimbiza, Hoodooism, Umbra, Quimbanda, all of these practices came from Africa through the slave trade. Look, Missy, Daddy is doing a video. It is not about the Harley girl. Second eldest kitty, wanting attention. So it is not about these other practitioners unless you're in a house. It would be like you going into a coven as a witch or a warlock, and having to apply yourself to the rules and the regulations of that particular coven. Okay, that means whatever the high priest or priestess is giving you for knowledge, that is what you are acceptable to. That is what you have to go by. Okay, you cannot reach out into other systems of paganism or Wiccan practices. You can't go into satanic practices. You can't go into necromantic practices without becoming labeled as a warlock, a Bokor, or a Membo, or whatever. See, a lot of people don't realize that when you get into these traditions, a Membo can easily become a Caplata as easily as a Hongan can become a Bokor, and vice versa. Okay? And all that separates these two is the ideals. It's the only thing that separates them. Okay? The only thing that separates them is their ideals. For an example, a bokor is someone who uses both hands. Okay? That means utilizing the left and the right hand paths. They're using herbalism. They could heal you, they can curse you. A Marimberos is the same way. A warlock is the same way. A bruo is the same way. Okay? A Darak is the same way. A necromancer or a shaman is the same way. If you go into Indonesian black magic, you'll notice the Dukan. That's Dukun. Okay? Dukan. Look into Santet. Santet. Okay? And you will find about 5, 6 different practices where a Dukan, which is a shaman in Indonesian and Malawi, uh, Malaysia, area region of the world, literally practice both healing and destructive magics. And what's interesting is they utilize the spirits to do this. Okay, so again, you're seeing not only a shaman using both healing, properties such as herbs, plants, elixirs, calling on spirits, but you're also seeing the left-hand path practices of domination. You're seeing the application of hexcraft and curses and jinxes, okay? And utilizing the spirits to implement certain devices into somebody's body, okay? Ever see the movie The Old Ways or The Old Way? That was based off Brujeria practices, okay? And that was just from a girl that came from that region, that moved to New York, went back, and ended up going into a cave and becoming possessed. Okay, only to be brought to a brua to have an exorcism done. Okay, there's another one that deals with. There's another movie that deals with the same thing, so you can actually have a reference to what I'm saying here. Look at if you can find it online. I'd recommend going underneath Google and watching the Necromancer 2020. Came out in 2019. Very, very good movie on necromancy. Okay. Love the tattoos, but the part that I liked about it was the fact that it utilizes egregories. It utilizes the branding and the symbolatry. And most importantly, it deals with remote viewing, astral projection, and most importantly, projection itself. Okay. The other aspect of it was it symbolized the 9 spires, which is Buddhism. Okay. Love Buddhism. Okay. Anytime you get into steves or tattoos, you are in fact branding yourself to a system of magic, a system of sorcery. Okay. This is showing that you are dedicated to that path. Okay. To the point where you are working with your patron or patroness. Okay. Full time, and you've chosen what that patron or patroness represents. Okay. For an example, if you are working in Santeria or Pero Mayambi, and you're into necromancy, you'd be working with Oya. Okay. Oya is the Orisha of the dead, cemeteries. Okay. Whereas in Haitian Voodoo, it would be Baroness Dambella. It would be Baron Samedi, Keflu, and Simbi, okay, who deals with serpents, cemeteries, and all that. If you're into, say, for an example, main witchcraft practices, you'll probably be working with either Isis. You're either working with Isis or you're working with Anubis in Egyptian mythology. Okay. Now, what's interesting is, hold that thought. I'll be right back. What's up, buddy?
I forgot my toys. What was in your car?
Okay, we'll go out in a few minutes and get them. Okay.
I forgot to bring them in because why? I because I couldn't carry that minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go out in a few minutes and get it. Okay.
I only have 2 arms and 2 hands.
Can you go watch your show? Daddy's doing a live video.
I was like.
And you're interrupting.
Yeah, and I was like.
Okay.
Playing with my popcorn toys and then.
So, anyways, as I was saying, in Egyptian mythology, Isis is associated with Anubis, the jackal headed dog of the underworld. He is the one that guides souls to their eternal resting place, be it heaven or hell or purgatory or wherever. Okay? Isis was associated with him due to the fact that her mate, Osiris, was dismembered and murdered by Ra. Okay, there's actually a couple of different stories along that line. But she became associated with the grave and death because of that. Okay. Now, if you're into Norse mythology, you're probably going to be working with Hel, Hel. Okay, the lady of the underworld. Okay. Greek mythology, obviously, you got Hecate in Hades. Okay, Persephone, Astarte, Ishtar, all of them. So either way you look at it, no matter what tradition, you can do self initiation, which is always good because it is about you being initiated by the spirits that you're working with, and or if you so choose, you can go to a peristyle and to a house and become initiated. It comes down to what you're willing to do and how far you're willing to go. Do you want to be putting out $200 a time until you are fully initiated? I believe that's like $2,000 if I'm not mistaken. At least that's the way it was when I got initiated. But here it is. The choice is yours on what you wish to do. My advice is to do your homework to the fullest. Okay? Do not listen to anyone else because 9 times out of 10, it is a fear tactic. It is to prevent you from learning. It is a tactic that is used by what I refer to as sentinels of the right hand path to prevent you from rising up as an individual, as a spiritual warrior. Okay? You are the one that is in charge of your own research. You are responsible for your own research, your own study, and your own practices. Okay? The spirits that you work with will hold you accountable as well. So you might want to pay attention to what they have to say. But when it comes to annotation, there are only 2 ways to do it: self and or pay somebody to be initiated. Okay? But I would recommend doing your own homework because there is a lot of material out there and nothing beats firsthand on experience. Okay? Trust me on that. When I first started getting into things like gems and stones, started getting into necromantic practices, the feeling that immense power when you're standing in a graveyard or at a crossroads in the woods, or even on a desolate dirt road, where a crossroads is, and you're performing a pact, in a massive ceremonial way. It is amazing. It is powerful. Okay. When you learn and you start making those connections, that is amazing because it is you who is doing it, not somebody else. It is you, okay? And you should be proud of that. You should be proud of that fact because you're the one doing the work. You're the one applying yourself. But it is the spirits that anoint you. They are the ones that tap you. They are the ones that bring you into the fold. So why would you want a middleman between you and them? That's just me. That's just my opinion on it. The path that I walk now and have walked full time now for about 4 to 6 years, I can tell you that this is the best path I have ever walked. And that's coming from a 30-year practitioner of various different types of magics and sorceries and spiritualism practices. So you have to walk several paths to find the one that fits you. Sometimes it's the spirits will just tap you and go, "Hey, I want you in this place. This is where I want you to be." Other times it is you going, "Oh, I relate to this." You know, I was angry, I was haughty, and I didn't care if somebody drew first blood or not when I was in my youth. Drama was drama. War was war. I would have cursed you as easily as I would have blessed you back then. But when you become serious about your practices and you delve into them, you start getting serious about spiritualism, then guess what? An emissary, a spirit that comes to you is considered to be an emissary. It's an ambassador for the entire pantheon of spirits. It doesn't have to be another practitioner in the physical mundane world. For an example, when I was 5 years old, Lucifer came to me personally. Didn't say anything, just appeared. I was the one that somehow I knew exactly who he was. And I asked my mother. Kind of freaked her out since we didn't have TV, we didn't have radio. Yeah, we never went to church. So here you have a 5-year-old looking at, you know, your foster mother and go, "Hey, who's Lucifer?" Well, where did you hear that from? He appeared to me, you know. But it wasn't until I was 11 that I started delving into the arts and realizing, oh, Satanism, Satan, Lucifer, Belial, and Leviathan. Hmm. I always liked Satanism because it was about the self. It was about self mastery, self growth, self evolution, self deifying. But like most, when you first start out, you get haughty, you become arrogant, and you tend to go down a dark, dark road before you come to your senses and realize you don't have to sit there and curse everybody that pisses you off. You know, like I said, I was haughty and arrogant in my youth. But well, you can use a vehicle if you wish. And that's up to you. I mean, you can even use a horse. You can walk, a bike, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Um, when I ended up in Tucson, When I was living in Tucson, I was initiated into Palo Mayombe and Santeria. That was back in '09, roughly about '09, 2011 area. I really enjoyed Palo Mayombe. It was full on black magic for me, and that was my own personal drug. I loved black magic and sorcery, vile magics, but that was just me. Santeria was more simplistic. It was about power. It was about spiritualism, much like Palo Monte, Kimbiza. About 6 years ago, I ended up coming across a tradition that was new. I've never heard of it before, and I ended up getting into it. I applied to it, started getting PDFs, and every so often started delving into it, getting into in touch with the elders and stuff like that, and started really delving into the knowledge factor of what was being put forth. And this knowledge literally took me world over. Very, very humbling, to say the least. And this group was not like any other group. No other tradition was like this. And it wasn't about you being handed everything with a golden spoon. You had to work your ass off and prove yourself to the elders. Nothing that would benefit you educational wise would be held away from you, or kept from you, I should say, as long as you continue to learn. When you stop learning, then you stop teaching, you stop, getting, that help, that aid. And it was one of those groups that it's one of those organizations that it is about constant learning. It is about constant evolution, self-empowerment, self-mastery, the whole kit and caboodle across the board. I spent an entire year just studying maybe three entities from their pantheon. Just three pantheons, just three entities. That was it for an entire year. Ended up writing about 2, 3 essays over the next 2 years, 2 to 3 years, just on necromancy alone. There was so much that it just led me all over the place, and it was spectacular. It went in from the medical field, it went into military foundations, religious foundations, governmental foundations, it went into the martial arts, it went into cultural, it went into public, uh, like, say, for example, socialism. Like how you would deal with the public, for an example. It went into, like I said, when I say medical field, it took me into thanatology, it took me into anthropology, it took me into psychology, it took me into herbalism, you know, and even hematology, which is dealing with the blood. Okay, the study of blood in all aspects, not just drawing it. It literally took me into so many different aspects that it was, even to this day, my mind is still trying to wrap itself around all this knowledge that I've been gathering. And it was interesting because when it led me up into to Africa, straight up through the Middle East, over into Russia, and then all of a sudden, right back, a 360-degree turn back into African-based sorcery, specifically that of Haitian Voodoo, went into the Caribbean traditions, and I ended up coming across Brujeria. Okay, and this is a path that I really enjoyed. It doesn't just deal with the spirits of various different sorts. It doesn't deal with just one type of magic, but five. Okay, breaks it down into five different types of magical practice. More so, you're not limited to just one tradition. You can go into as many as you want as a practicing necromancer. And you don't even have to be a necromancer to practice Bujeria. You can be a warlock, a witch, you can be a shaman, even. It's one of those practices that, again, the title does not matter. It is about what you are getting out of that practice. So when I got into it, yeah, I still work with demons. You know, I still work with the Orisha. I still work with the Loa, but now I'm working with spirits, disincarnated souls. You know, I'm getting more into spiritual warfare. I'm getting more into spiritualism on a wide base, a very dedicated and serious base, learning about baneful magics on levels that was previously unknown to me. So I'm still learning, even after 35 years of study. So it's definitely a path that you might want to consider if that's something that speaks to you. But like I said, you're going to go down a lot of different roads before you find the path that's for you. Like I said, I went through witchcraft, I went through shamanism, I went through Satanism, from different denominations of Satanism, from atheistic, to spiritual, to theistic, and finally into traditional before I got into necromancy. But it also led me into the priesthood. Okay, so I mean, there was a lot of different aspects that played a part for me just to get to where I'm at. So again, when it comes to initiation, you can initiate yourself under the guidance of the spirits, because those spirits are the ones that are initiating you. It would be like you going to Lucifer's Raquel. You're making the deal with him. Okay, you can go to Mephistopheles and make the deal with him. Okay, you can go to any ranked demonic entity or fallen angel and work with them. Make a deal to work solely with that spirit. You don't need another practitioner to go to you and go, hey, I'm going to make a deal with this spirit. Can you do it for me? No, it's not how it works. Okay. It is you who does it with that spirit, but that spirit normally would come to you and say, hey, yeah, I'll work with you. You got that flavor I like. I'll go with you. I'll see what you got. But not all spirits are like that. Okay. That's the thing that a lot of practitioners today don't understand. Being dedicated and committed to a path or a tradition is one thing, but you got to remember that you got to give it a good lengthy time. Not everything is up in your face, right? Snapping your finger. Oh, easy button. I got $1 million. Snap my finger. Oh, I got a new job, promotion. No, it don't work like that. You can pick up a book and go, oh, I'm a Satanist. Well, I'm now a Black Pope because I read this book. No, it takes many years of practice, study, experimentation. That's what a lot of people don't understand. This is why a lot of practitioners prefer to be associated with worldly things such as drama, chaos, being a part of segregation, being a part of denominations, which is basically another form of segregation, if you will. But the point here is you're going to go down a number of different roads. You're going to be practicing and studying a lot of things. You're going to be working with a lot of different spirits and different types of spirits, from the Exu, the Orisha, demons, angels, jinn, Noah. Maybe not all of them. Maybe you'll get lucky and find the path that fits you. But like I said, annotation is between you and that spirit that you choose to work with, and or if they tap you. The Loa have been the one thing I've noticed lately is the Loa have been reaching out to non-Haitians a lot lately. Over the last couple of years, more and more non-Haitians have been being tapped and becoming practitioners of Voodoo. So it's not just Voodoo, it's also the Caribbean traditions. For me, like I said, after 30 years, I ended up becoming a necromancer. This led me into Brujeria practice, and I'm really enjoying it. So, yeah, you can ask me questions here. I don't mind. AKA Morningstar. It's been a while. So, yeah, one thing I will tell you is along the line of your journey, you will end up with a massive library. But just keep in mind, you don't need to buy every book on any given topic. Sometimes it's a matter of finding a particular author that knows what they're talking about. For an example, Herbert Locklear is a Baptist from the 80s. He wrote what is known as the Biblical series. And what he did was he broke down the Bible. One book was about all the prophecies, another one was all the parables, another one was just the men, another one was all the women of the Bible, and so forth and so forth. I think there was a total of 18 books in the series originally back in 1987. He recently uploaded new books, and I believe, copies of them, and I believe it was actually a lot less volumes, which was, I want to say, around about 10 area. So you lost about like 8 books. And so, I mean, when it came to learning the Bible, Herbert Locklear was one of the best. If you really want to understand the Bible from a modern day perspective, I'd go with Francis Barrett, Francis Frankenpain. Okay, very, very good. Andrew Womack is pretty good if you want to understand the difference between the mind, body, and spirit. Okay, and that's from JCI perspective, though. Now, if you want to get into Satanism, I would recommend, like I said, Alistair Knott or Anton LaVey's works. Two of the most best ones out there, as far as I'm concerned. But if you really want to test yourself and go into hardcore Satanism, I would recommend any book by the ONA, the Order of the Nine Angles. I know what a lot of people say about the Order of the Nine Angles, and I can tell you that a lot of that is just fear mongering. It's basically hearsay of, oh, I was told this, I was told that. Did you ever practice it? No. Then why are you speaking on it? If you haven't practiced it, you shouldn't be speaking on it. Plain and simple. You mean the branding? You don't want to be branded by the spirit. You quit being mouthy. What? So basically, there's two types of tattoos that can go on here. One is a demonic mark. It's known as the devil's mark. You can actually look this up. Um, Ribbons, or was it Robbins? I think it was. Did a huge note on this. I actually did an entire video on it. Is It's known as the devil's mark. Okay, and this is normally where the devil or Satan, whatever demon that you work with, brands you with his own personal seal, someplace like inside the lip, you know, s- up by the hair, someplace more personal, wherever. And there's a different topics on how it was perceived throughout the Renaissance and Dark Ages and Burning times, during the witch trials and stuff. And so that was one way that the spirits actually marked you. Okay. Another one was an actual tattoo. Okay. We refer to it as branding ourselves, those of us who are hardcore practitioners. And I'll show you. Okay. This type of thing, you know, shows our dedication to the current and to the path that we walk. Okay. Those of you who are familiar with EA Wedding, Eric Wedding, you know, Eric Lawrence, you know, as he's called, you'll probably notice that he has a lot of tattoos. And on one arm, it's all his demonic tattoos, the demons and seals and stuff that he works with when working with demons. But on the other hand, on the other arm, he's working with the Norse system. So it's all the white light stuff on the other arm, on the right arm. This this is a different type of branding. This is something that he chose to do. Okay. Kind of like me, for an example. I have a lot of tattoos. Okay. I refer to these as branding. My first tattoo was in honor of my patroness, Astaroth. Okay. Now, at the time when I first got it, it was a birthday present from my ex on my birthday. And the plan was I didn't really think about, what type of tattoos I wanted or how to get them, how was I going to arrange them, you know? That was just something that, it was a spur of the moment thing, you know? So, I was sitting there while the guy was doing the tattoo. He was alright with it, he didn't really wanna know much about it, which was alright, I respect that. He thought it was kinda cool, but after looking at it, he says, "Don't you want the circles and the lettering and stuff like that?" I said, "No, because I'm the one that knows what it," those like me, myself and those like me know exactly who Astaroth is and what Astaroth is about, you know? And we got to talking about tattoos, the brandings and stuff like that. And he says, "Have you ever thought about doing a sleeve? What kind of sleeve would you like?" You know? And I told him, I said, "I didn't really think about it. I just wanted the tattoos of the demons that I work with, that I made deals with and pacts with, And so this is how we got on the topic of different designs of tattoos. So I'm laying there while he was working on this arm and doing that seal. And all of a sudden, I'm looking up at the ceiling, and they had one of those Asian, the Chinese dragons up there. Not the real dragons or what the hell do they call those? Paper mache ones. Now, this is one of those cloth ones. It was almost like a balloon, and it was spread out with fire coming out of the mouth. And I started thinking of Dante's Inferno. I started thinking about Leviathan, his gaping jaws being opened, the flames shooting out, and you can see all the damned souls in his mouth. You've seen the photos of this. Anybody who's got into demonology has seen this. And I started thinking, okay, how to do this. get the seals all put on the arm, and then have the dragon coiling around them and the flames just bursting out from around all the seals and everything. This would be awesome, as a sleeve. But then I got into the current that I'm in as a necromancer, and I started practicing that. And the more I got deeper into that, the more I got deeper into the current, the more I got into the seriousness of it through knowledge and through dedication and commitment through my work, the practices and everything. I started getting tattoos, and before long, I was taking a shower, and as I was washing my left arm, I realized the way the designs were on my arm, from the first to the last, told the story of my journey into necromancy. Talk about mind blowing. That blew my mind right there. That just blew my freaking mind. So I can sit there and start here, work my way this way, and come right up this way. That's the entire journey of my that I've had over the last 6 years, just working with my patroness and the patrons through the practices that was in that. Now, there are two types of tattoos: the voluntary and the afflicted. A lot of times, if a demon or a spirit places a mark on you, it is because you've dedicated yourself to that spirit, okay, to that particular entity. But if somebody has, say, for an example, used a spirit to mark you, that's a whole nother thing because that means you've been marked, you've been condemned, you've been hexed, cursed, jinxed, whatever. So I would look at, in that case, I would look at your life. Are you having a lot of bad luck? Are you having a lot of things being removed from your life? And if that's so, then you probably had a jinx on you or a hex. I wouldn't say it was a curse because of the fact that if it was a curse, that's just simply to put you out of your misery, so to speak. So I would recommend looking at the other two. So now the question is, why was that placed upon you? Was it something you did? Who did you screw over? Who did you piss off? It would have to be something personal. It would have to be something serious enough that somebody went to a Bruo, a Warlock, or a Boko, to perform something like this on you. Okay. Now I can tell you that it's not a witch, it's not a pagan or a Wiccan because they're too much of a pansy to do anything of this type of nature. Okay. So I would recommend looking at more of a dark arts practitioner type, black magic type stuff because hexcraft, be it bindings, be it jinxes, curses, whatever, that's all black magic. That's all sorcery. Okay. That means somebody is trying to teach you a lesson. All right. So if you were given a mark against your will and you did not ask for it, you did not make a deal, then that's what I would recommend. That's what I would recommend. And the question is, when did it appear? And look, before that time, who did you piss off? Keep in mind that some people don't need a reason to curse you unless you're in their way. Okay. Um, no. The answer is no on that because of the fact that the dedication is between you and the spirit. You cannot go through somebody else and be dedicated to a spirit through somebody else. It's a personal connection between you and that spirit. So, anyways, as I was saying, you want to look at who's very ambitious at the workplace? Are they a practitioner? Are they associated with practitioners? Okay, of baneful or wrathful magics. Okay, again, you notice I mentioned earlier about spiritual warfare. Spiritual warfare is used to get a better foothold and personal gain, if you will. So, if say for example, if I wanted to move up in a company, anyone more experienced than me, who's been there longer, that would have more of a chance to becoming, say, for example, a team lead or a manager. I would target that person. Um, just to remove them, or I could just simply go at the entire store and say, "Hey, I want to do this." Open up the doorway. And I'd put it together a mojo bag or a griscris bag, and I'd plant it on the premises somewhere. Okay, to do that, and trust me, that it's actually very, very beneficial that way. When I worked for Dunkin' Donuts the first time around, I did this. And this was right after my boss at the time had a heart attack and a triple bypass. And everybody, a long list of people that had been there years before me, were suddenly removed. Those who stood parallel hostile to me basically suddenly just lost their cojones. And it's like, no, I'm not fucking with this guy. Okay. There's something about him I don't want nothing to do with him. Um, so yeah, it was a lot of people that left. I had a company, one man decided to fuck me over, to screw me over, and I cursed the entire company. They went from a $7 billion company to a $7 million company in just a few short months. About 3, 4 years later, I saw the team lead, my team lead that I had there at Tractor Supply, and he says, "Please don't curse the store again." He knew. He knew. So, I mean, that's one way that a mark can be placed, either on an individual or a corporation. But if you want to target somebody because, say, for an example, they're hostile to you or they're in your way, you can target that individual and remove them by any means necessary. That sounds like a invitation of some sort. Probably by the sound of it, I would say a dedication. You were being dedicated to some kind of spirit. Could be a family lineage. You might want to look into that. And if so, what tradition are we referring to? There's a lot of fetishes out there within the traditions, especially nowadays. A You're referring to a sacrifice there. Sacrifices can be made where you dedicate someone to be an innocent sacrifice. You don't even have to lay a hand on them. You basically just dedicate them to a spirit for more power, for more money, whatever. It comes down to the tradition and what your aims are. Well, if you've been at spiritual warfare for a very long time, I would sit back and ask, why is that? Because you shouldn't have to be fighting your entire life. Curses and jinxes are my speciality. It's something that I've dedicated my path to. Baneful and wrathful sorcery. Tantra is more vibrational. So think of it as harmonizing on certain frequencies to place your will and your intention towards a spell. Tibetan magic is actually Tibetans are actually very mental, potent stuff too. Jinxes are basically to give somebody bad luck. That's all that is. Curses are just to end somebody. Basically, you're done. You're done putting up with their crap. You're removing them permanently. A hex, on the other hand, is something completely different because it is about teaching that individual a lesson. And they're going to keep losing things until they either, one, learn that lesson, or eventually the hex is going to take their life. Um, a binding is something completely different from all of that because you're trying to limit somebody's intentions from hurting themselves or somebody else. And you're binding them from prospering as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use a binding for, especially within black magic. Ancestry.com. They sleep no more. Takes about $100. Takes about 2 months. I did it. I was very impressed with what came back because it answered so many questions from my because of my background. I let's just say it answered a lot of questions, and my spiritualism came from my Native American side, whereas the political and power based stuff comes from my mother's side of the family, which is European. And ironically, both ended up in the northeast of the US, in the Canada region, with a few scattered throughout America and the world as possible um, connections to me, my DNA and lineage. So I would recommend ancestral.com to you because you can get a very good amount of information, not just historically. And that way, it gives you a place to start. It gives you a place to delve into. I think they're based out of California, someplace. I think, if I remember correctly, it was out that way. It was out west. I want to say Chica, San Diego region. It was some little town I've never even heard of. It was over that way. Hmm. Don't tell me he didn't get that payment, did he? And there's a reason why your mother is not in your life either. Me, take me for an example. I cut my family out of my life permanently. Both were so similar. It's one of those things where I'd rather just be me. I'm not going to surround myself with their reputation or their way of life. They'd want to be drama, backstabbers, and betrayers, liars, basically. Knowledge is one thing. Having the knowledge is one thing, but you have to have the experience to back it up. It would be like actions and words. If you don't back up what you say with action, how is anybody going to take you seriously? Okay. My teacher in Wudan, he has dual citizenship. He was a practitioner out of Ghana and Nigeria. Okay. He was surprised that my magic worked. I asked him, I said, what would it take to open a business over where you are, where you come from? He said, for one, you have to prove yourself. Once you prove yourself to a couple of people, you're going to be a legend. People are going to believe your magic. They're going to believe what you say. So it's one thing to say, hey, I am a practitioner of, say, such and such a tradition. But when you actually apply your magic to your life and actually prove yourself to clients, to apprentices, to the communities, time and time again, you're going to build a reputation and people are going to go to you for your experience because you backed it up. The area that I currently live in, I've had a number of Christians that decided to tangle with me. They lost horribly. The remaining Christians here have decided to be my friend and leave me alone. Even the law enforcement officers know me by reputation and they leave me alone. They would rather be respectful and ask me what I want them to do than to get into my life and to interfere. That's what I mean by reputation. As I tell people, I skipped the mundane stuff and went straight to the supernatural. That's right. This is why I'm the black sheep in my family. So, and I'm not trying to brag there, but it's one of those things where when your family has a lot of well, let's just say a rap sheet as long as your arm, then and all of a sudden you skip all that and go straight into the magics and the sorceries and working with demons and supernatural entities and becoming a practitioner of the arts, all of a sudden it's like you're on a they're here, you're way the hell up here, and the rest of the world is like, nope, nope, not gonna fuck with them. That's what I mean by number one, you have words. Number two, you have the experience and you've taken the actions necessary to prove yourself. It has nothing to do with ego. It has nothing to do with pride. It has everything to do to having that balance factor of experience and knowledge. You got to remember that the knowledge is to elevate you through evolution. Okay. Think of the Akashic records. Okay. Just out of an example. Through that, there's nothing you can't learn. You can go to the dark sirens. You can go to the sirens and learn anything you want because as long as you don't give a damn what happens to the people that they go after. Okay. It would be like sending Pazuzu or Abaddon, Samael, Sabnook after somebody through a curse. As long as you don't give a damn what happens to them, feel free. But you have to have the knowledge. How do you summon them? How do you work with them? What is it that they like for sacrifices and offerings. You know, do you have that repertoire with that spirit? Okay, this is what I mean. You have to have a relationship with these spirits. I'm not talking sexual or otherwise. You have to have a friendship with them. You have to become acquainted with their current, their energies. You have to know what they're about. What are their legionnaires about? Okay, what are their their armies about? Do they have priests underneath their command? Do they have knights underneath their command? Do they have children? Beelzebub actually has a child. Okay, not many people know that. Okay, but here it is. How do you know your stuff if you don't delve into the knowledge and then back it up through? Let me see it. Oh, hey, Mama. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead and talk to Mama. So, yeah, his mom's at work, so I'm watching my boy. It's a daddy Sunday on a Monday. Ironic. So, anyways, as I was saying, you have to have the knowledge to be able to practice. Initiation, again, being initiated by a spirit, you're cutting out that middle link. But if you're working with a house or a coven, then you're going to be fed little bit by little bit, and you're going to have to work your ass off. So, yeah, I get that. Well, that doesn't matter. You'll still find out where your DNA comes from, where your lineage derives from. European based, Asian based, African based, Caribbean based, whatever. They'll show exactly where your lineage comes from and resides in. You're welcome. Hmm, interesting. Which basically goes against my initial feeling and thought. So, anyways, but yeah, initiation, being initiated comes in two different forms, in two forms only. You don't need a middleman or a woman. You can go straight with the spirits, or you can go through, like I said, a middleman. Either way, it's up to you. So I'm going to get off here. I want to thank everybody for jumping on here with me. It means a lot. If you like the information, feel free to subscribe. Okay, hit that notarization button and so forth. All right. Have a good one, and until next time.